What's the fastest you've ever gone from caring about someone to straight up loathing them? Had a really great friend in high school. He was cool, but he's always be trying to sell stuff to people in the hallways. Like video games or pocket knives or sunglasses. After over a year of being friends with him, he came over to my house to hang out, and when he left, a bunch of my favorite video games were missing. I realized what was happening. And I had plans on forgiving him if he just fessed up and apologized. Instead, he got super defensive and angry. And I instantly lost any respect I had for the guy. I didn't have a good relationship with my family. And my in-laws were incredible. They would help out whenever and however they could. Then my daughter, elementary school aged at the time, told me that my father-in-law had molested her. She accused my dad of sexually assaulting her at a sleepover. Went to court, and after first day of trial she admitted she made it up because she was jealous of my relationship with my parents. Meanwhile, my dad's legal bill was $17,000. And her family immediately filed for bankruptcy a week after. So we couldn't pursue them civilly. They were legit poor. So wouldn't have made a difference. Comes out later she had done the same thing before. She's been married. Divorced. And the kicker is her current common law husband is her ex-husband's friend's father. Heinous. Gave my roommate an envelope with a money order for bills in it. To drop in the mail. He got arrested. While looking for some of his documents to take to him, I found the opened, empty envelope in his closet. Peace out. My brand new stepmother screamed, cried at me in public because she had left her purse at their wedding venue. I, an 11-year-old, was supposed to have known somehow to keep an eye on it for her. I didn't hate her right away. But that was definitely a switch flip moment on how I felt about her. I worked for my stepmom with the intent that I would take over the business when she retired in a few years. I took more than a 50% pay cut and left my career of 10 years of managing and leading organizations to come work for her. Those few years came and went with her unable to even talk about a timeline for retirement. I spent years trying to fix processes and procedures around the office to make her life easier and to make the general workflow easier for all employees. But she was completely resistant to any change from the status quo, while simultaneously always complaining about how busy she was and how we just didn't have any good processes in place. I finally confronted her about her retirement timeline and putting it in writing that I would be her succession plan. She balked at even putting together a plan for her retirement. I let her know that I really couldn't hang around if there weren't any prospects for advancement or pay increases. My wife secured a job in a new town and I gave my stepmom a 6-month notice that we would be moving. I explained that I would be more than willing to help hire and train my replacement and finish formalizing all of the procedures I had developed in my time there. She fired me the next business day. Frick that bitch. My best friend, who I considered a brother, was working for me. I called him to talk about the next job, construction. And he informed me that he had started his own company and taken my other full-time employee with him, who was working with me that day. Yeah, needless to say, that one stung for a bit. We're cordial now, but it will never be the same after that. It's been 3 years. My mother was an alcoholic growing up. I used to take her side in all the fights she had with my dad. When I was at an older age, I realized she was using my dad. She had no job and my dad, who was 64, was working his ass off to pay for my sister, me and my parents. Then my dad said we didn't have enough money for something and basically my mum said so. We're poor. My parents later split up and she found another boyfriend almost instantly. She still didn't have a job. So I figured out that she used my dad. Then was using her boyfriend. Yeah. It was messed me up. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the love and support. I hope you get through your sad times too. When my best friend of 10 years slept with my boyfriend of 2 years. I was so crushed, but to be honest was more angry with the friend. I truly did believe that I was deeply in love with the boyfriend, but he was kind of a poophead to begin with. I saw my friend as a sister and her betrayal left longer lasting impact and hurt way more. I hated her in a violent way for a very long time. Fast forward 11 years and now I am to the point where I have forgiven her and wish her well but would never let her back into my life again. Friend at a bar tells some people we just met how her mother died. Later in the night I express my sympathy, now she's without parents. She'd told me hush hush a few years prior about how father had passed. Wait, did I tell you back then my dad died? I thought I told you it was my mum. No. Both my parents are still alive. When we were in uni I just read in a book telling people a parent has died isn't good way to get sympathy. Haha, freaking sociopath. When my grandfather screamed at my mother that she had ruined his life by being born. Never spoke to him again after that. My mother fought cancer for 5 years. My father let my sister and I do 95% of the work caregiving, and after her death expected us to step into her place and take care of him. The man I used to love and respect is gone and I can't stand to be around him anymore. I had a friend a while back. Neat guy. Liked video games. Anime. One of the few people willing to go in on a pen and paper RPG. Didn't interact with him outside of these sorts of events. One time, a bunch of us went to grab dinner before seeing a limited run anime movie. This guy special orders absolutely everything. Won't pick something on the menu. Standard grill fare. Doesn't just ask for special order. Demands it. Calls the waitress names and is just a total PP. When I confronted him about it he started shouting and making a huge scene in the restaurant. The rest of the night was massively awkward. After that, I just ghosted him. People who treat others poorly like that have no place in my life. You can tell the character of a person based on how they treat someone. They don't have to be kind or nice to. Had made some plans with the GF at the time for Valentine's Day. This was back in late HS. Had called her on the phone a few hours before to reconfirm details. And she abruptly begged off cause supposedly her parents were going to be having a date of their own later that evening. And so she was being assigned to take care of her grandma for the day. Her grandmother needed constant care. So it wasn't especially unusual for one of her parents to be taking a day to stay with her. She was supposed to leave pretty early in the afternoon and be with her all evening. So I decided that the least I could do was maybe drop off some flowers and chocolates in basket and amp stuff so she'd have something nice waiting when she got back. Spent a bunch of money on getting something nice. Showed up at her place around 5. Expecting just her parents to be there. And not only was she the one to answer the door. I could clearly hear both her parents chatting away in the background and there was no grandmother to be seen. Turned out, she just didn't have the guts to bite the bullet and properly break up with me. She was just going to keep cancelling until I got the picture or something. Found out this girl I was getting close to had been lying about her ex being a deadbeat dad, and well, her ex. He wasn't just still in the picture. They lived together. I should have guessed after the 3rd or 4th time she made an excuse to not go to her place. Never ended something so quick. 1 year friendship with this girl. I invited her over to my new apartment. She came over and wanted to gossip about her co-workers. When she paused, I tried to add into the conversation, make a joke, give reassurance, add a comment, etc. But she would immediately raise her voice and start talking over me. I kept getting angrier every time it happened until I was actually loathing her internally. She was so self-absorbed that she didn't notice I went from smiling and amp engaged to frowning while staring off into space. After 2+ hours of not being allowed to talk, I made up an excuse to kick her out of the apartment and then vowed to never see her again. My childhood friend, he lived pretty close to me and seemed like a nice dude until he stole my GoldenEye and moved to Minnesota. Frick you, Derek. One summer back in high school years, I had a crush on this girl and we'd hang out when we weren't working together. A friend of mine would keep insisting that I should just ask her out. So I mustered my courage and asked her out. Yeah, it was a glorious fail. I still remember when she smiled and told me the truth. That was when I found out that they had been secretly dating for a year and thought it would be a lark to just frick with me. 100 to 0 in a few words and a vicious smile. when he straight up denied my existence in front of his friends. The first girl I ever dated died unexpectedly on my then current GF and my 3-year anniversary. My then GF stated she was pissed because my ex had died on purpose that day because it was our anniversary. I was utterly disgusted and it completely changed how I viewed her altogether. Things fell apart shortly after and we broke up. When he convinced his wife to kick her young kids out because they, the husband and wife, were finally having a child together. He was very open about hating his stepkids. Edit, grammar. Catching messages on my wife's phone that confirm her affair earlier this morning. As fast as it took for his wife to call me at work to tell me that he was not only married, but had 3 children including a newborn. My ex-girlfriend. We were childhood sweethearts. Dated from 17 to 25. Found out she was cheating on me with her boss, who was more than twice our age. Then proceeded to find out there was many more occurrences and she was a very different person than the person I'd been dating. Shattered. When I found out a family member abused their kids. Instant hate and disgust. Co-worker had a dog who she let run free on her property. Said dog liked to chase cars. So it was only a matter of time. And the dog was it. Dog couldn't walk for 2 days. Was dragging herself around for days after that. We told her to bring her to the vet. And she refused. Because it was too expensive. We pulled together the money and told her, bring your damn dog to the vet. And she did. The dog's bones in her legs and pelvis were shattered and the dog had no chance of recovering. Co-worker finally let the poor thing die peacefully. So anyhow, it was $50 to put this dog to sleep. And since then, every time my co-worker spends money on something frivolous and shows us novelty socks, collectibles, an expensive cake, another freaking pet, I think about how she decided bringing comfort to a dying animal wasn't worth paying for. Was at my wife's family Christmas gift exchange. My wife is estranged from her direct family. So this was all of the uncles, aunties and cousins. There were multiple nieces and nephews running around having a good time. We all agreed to a white elephant exchange for the adults so we didn't have to buy a lot of gifts. We did that the night before and did the gifts for the kids in their morning. Morning rolls around and all the kids are opening gifts. Except my son. None of those entitled asshats got him anything. He sat there and watched everyone else open multiple gifts and it broke my heart to see him sitting there with nothing. Frick those people right up their stupid assholes. A former friend bailed on me when we were supposed to hang out and so I called my then girlfriend to see what she was doing and I could hear him talking to her parents in the background. When he started being condescending to me in almost every conversation we have. In about almost every topic we talked about. Then him complaining to me that some people can't handle him having such strong opinions on topics he's passionate about. Had a male bestie for more than 10 years. One night I was upset and crying cause I witnessed my friend die at the beach a few weeks earlier. He stays over to comfort me and suggests he sleep over so I wouldn't be alone. He promised he wouldn't do anything. I believed him. So he held me while I cried myself to sleep. I wake up to him fingering me. Without my consent obviously I lost my mind. And told him off and kicked him out my house. He came back a few days later to apologize but I was so disgusted with him I told him to frick off and never talk to me again. I blocked him. I felt so disgusted and betrayed. I loved, still love, playing Pokemon and I had no female friends with the same interest. Found out about this group of guys that played it after school. Got really excited and made plans with them. I waited 4 hours and they never showed up. Next day I overhear my best childhood friend laughing about how annoying I was and that they had to hide from me to play in peace. That really hurt. My best friend back in school got a ref from the teacher. Me and him asked if we can go to the toilet. I go to the toilet to text a bit with friends from other school. He goes to the parking lot and scratches the teacher's car. School break and the teacher finds his car. We both get called to the director etc etc. Friend said that we both scratched the car. I showed the teacher my phone to show him I was texting and couldn't have scratches his car. Told friend to frick off and went out. Talking to my then GF about her cheating on me. Explaining I couldn't ever possibly trust her again. And she replied, but do you really need to trust me? Clearly had different ideas on what's required for a healthy relationship. Edit, for context. Relationship was 6 years long. We had been talking about marriage. We owned a dog together. This was the second instance of cheating. This conversation was what pushed me over the edge into the territory of self-respect. Broke up with her the next day. Much happier since. Hey you. Thanks for watching Reddit stories. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting like and subscribing. Your support means a lot. We also have a Discord community where we will be running giveaways and fun surprises throughout the year. Come along and meet some new friends. You look great today.